I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. It's D-Day for wedding days in New York. Will Senate Republicans continue to hold their peace on same-sex marriage? Plus, could religion be the thing that keeps the same-sex marriage bill from a vote?
This is marriage in a civil context, marriage as defined by government, not by a religion.
And you won't discover the next pop superstar here. In fact, men came together to smash their idols.
They wanted really to show that men can be truly men and good husbands, good family men, and that they can really be men of Jesus Christ.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Will it happen? That is the question on everyone's lips in the halls of New York State Capitol today, no matter where they stand on the bill that would legalize same-sex marriage. After a wave of confirmed yes votes from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle last week, it seemed almost certain that the Senate would vote on Governor Andrew Cuomo's Marriage Equality Act, which passed by its slimmest margin ever in the Assembly with a vote of 80 to 63. One more Senate Republican vote is all that is standing in the way of redefining marriage in New York. If passed, New York would become the 6th state in the country to grant same-sex couples licenses to legally marry. And with today being the final day of the session for Albany's lawmakers, the final scheduled day anyway, Nick Reisman reports from Albany on this controversial proposal that seems to be stuck in legislative limbo.
As a same-sex marriage bill remains stalled in the Republican-led Senate, attention is turning toward amending the measure so there are broader exemptions for religious institutions.
Personally, I believe that there are areas where we need to strengthen these religious exceptions, and I think for me it's something that is a line in the sand, and it's something that we really need to get right.
Senator Andrew Lanza, along with Senators Kemp Hannan and Steve Saland, met with Governor Andrew Cuomo Wednesday night to discuss adding religious exemptions. Though Cuomo says current law is sufficient to protect religious institutions from lawsuits, he said he's open to listening to lawmakers' concerns.
I happen to be a Catholic, and that's my business, and that's my religion. This has nothing to do with my beliefs as a Catholic. This is marriage in a civil context, marriage as defined by government, not by a religion.
But opponents of the bill claim the governor's measure doesn't offer enough protections.
I'm not convinced yet it's going to pass. It's going to be a tight one, a squeaker. But if it does pass, they must put in maximum number of religious exemptions, protections. So that's what we're concerned about.
The measure's assembly sponsor says there hasn't been any proposed language on altering the bill.
I understand where the concern comes from. I believe that the current language is sufficient. If someone doesn't believe that the current language is sufficient, I would be interested in seeing what they're proposing in writing.
Senate Republicans say Cuomo is at least listening to their concerns.
This has been a very complicated year in terms of the issues that we've addressed, and I found that the governor, from the very beginning, starting with the budget process, has always had an open ear.
31 senators, including 2 Republicans, have said they'll vote for the bill, 1 vote shy of the amount needed to pass. The legislature returns to Albany on Monday for its last scheduled day of session. Cuomo would not say if he plans to call lawmakers back to a special session to take up the same-sex marriage bill.
Well, stay with us. Traditional marriage defenders steamrolled their way into Albany today, just ahead of a possible vote on same-sex marriage. We'll speak to one of the demonstration's leaders. But before we go to the break here, family was very much on people's minds for other reasons this weekend. This Sunday was, of course, Father's Day, and we thought, what better place to go and ask a few questions about fathers and fatherhood than out at a baseball game? Yeah. So we took our cameras to Coney Island's MCU Park. It's a place I know well, through the first pitch for the Brooklyn Cyclones. It's their home field, as a matter of fact, the good old Brooklyn Cyclones. Gotta love them. And we went out there to ask people if fathers get enough props for what they do.
That's a tough question. No way.
Probably not. Probably not.
I don't know. Do they deserve that much credit?
I definitely don't get enough credit, but
the fathers that I know that are good fathers, and they raise their kids as single dads, or even the ones that are married, they don't get credit at all.
I think mothers deserve their credit.
There's a reason why they're stereotyped like that, but I believe a lot of fathers out here don't get the credit that they deserve.
Women get all the credit. Poor fathers, we're always bringing up the rear.
Sometimes. On Father's Day they do.
If they show up to be fathers.
Fathers always mean the best for everybody.
I don't need any credit for my role. The credit's been just the pleasure of raising a child, and I have gotten more credit than I ever deserved.
Welcome back. Well, demonstrators both for and against New York's same-sex marriage bill crowded the halls of the state capitol in Albany in recent days in a last-minute drive to sway lawmakers, and most importantly, sway their votes on the hotly contested same-sex marriage bill. The controversial measure remains deadlocked in the Senate at 31-31 as Senate Republicans continue to conference and discuss the possibility of bringing Governor Cuomo's Marriage Equality Act to the Senate floor for an actual vote. Well, to a soundtrack of songs, hymns, and clapping, and also a lot of yelling, hundreds of demonstrators made their viewpoints known loud and clear. One of the groups who led some of today's demonstrations against passing the same-sex marriage bill was New Yorkers for Constitutional Freedoms. The group describes itself on its website as, quote, a political lobbying organization committed to voicing the pro-life and pro-family perspective to New York State elected officials. Well, the demonstrations come on the heels of Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio's visit to Albany last Friday. But did all of this make a difference or just make a lot of noise? Well, to tell me more about what happened today, I'm joined now over the phone by Reverend Jason McGuire, the Executive Director of New Yorkers for Constitutional Freedoms. Reverend McGuire, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, it's good to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, we really appreciate it very much. So I guess I'll start my questioning by just asking you that the question that I posed there. Did you make a difference, do you feel, or did you just make some noise?
No, I think we definitely made a difference. You know, as we looked at today being the last day of session, all eyes were on how the Senate Republicans would handle the same-sex marriage bill. And I think that today we caused them reason to pause again and to carefully consider how they'll handle this piece of legislation. They could not ignore the ruckus that really was being raised, respectfully so, but letting them know that marriage between a man and a woman matters.
Sure. And what was it that you guys were actually pushing for? Are you pushing for no vote, or for it to be voted down, or for more religious exemptions in the bill if it does pass? What are your hopes?
Well, we sincerely believe that a vote with societal implications of this magnitude should not be decided by 32 state senators. We believe this should be a vote of the people. You know, in every state where this has been a people's vote, same-sex marriage has been defeated. And this is not something that I want to see rammed down the throats of the New York State voters, but that they would actually have a voice and a choice in what the definition of marriage will be here in New York.
Right. Do you see the tide changing on that sort of issue, though? I mean, obviously, it has, and you're absolutely correct in saying that it's been voted down when it's come up for a referendum of the people. But, you know, a recent poll here in the state of New York showed that 58% of the population support same-sex marriage. So do you feel like maybe that would be detrimental to your cause there as well?
Well, we don't think so. I mean, you know, the governor has been around and touting 60%, which I think is a very liberal roundup of the polling. But the reality is, if the numbers are there, then the other side should have no problem in putting this to a people's vote, a referendum. But the reality is, whenever a state puts this issue to the ballot, even in a state like California, where the polls indicated that same-sex marriage would easily pass, there was a 10-point swing when the voters actually had a chance to vote, and they rejected same-sex marriage. We believe the same would happen here in New York.
Gotcha. Well, were you able to meet with anyone? Have you been able to meet with anyone through this process? Majority Leader Skelos or Governor Cuomo or any of the lawmakers there?
Yeah, we did. We had a sit-down with Senator Skelos today. We continue to speak with individual senators as well, just reminding them that their Republican base opposes same-sex marriage by a margin of 2-1. And if they care about their seats, and they care about the leadership of the state, they cannot thumb their nose at their base, but they have got to pay attention to this particular issue.
Right. And, you know, there was a great presence today at the state capitol of religious people, of you know, clergy and people in religious orders and things like that. What do you say to people who might ask, well, you know, where were you a couple of weeks back leading up to all of this, and why wait until the 11th hour to have these demonstrations and make your voice heard?
You know, I think we have been here all along. We had nearly 1,500 people here in March for a rally. We had a rally actually in the park just about a month ago. So we've been consistently here, but this is those final days of the session. It's so important that once again, Senate Republicans are reminded that the base cares about this issue.
Sure. And you're up there kind of in the eye of the storm. Do you have any sort of feeling about whether or not the bill will come to the floor for a vote?
Well, we're in for a tremendous battle, I can tell you that. But I believe that hope springs eternal, and we're going to continue to fight to see that marriage is defended in New York State. It should be defined between one man and one woman.
All right. Well, Reverend Jason McGuire, the Executive Director of New Yorkers for Constitutional Freedoms, we thank you so much for taking some time out for us to join us here today on Currents. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Well, stay tuned. Rory McIlroy's historic U.S. Open win over the weekend gets eclipsed by an oversight in the Pledge of Allegiance by NBC News, well, by NBC Broadcasting anyway. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines coming up next. But before we go to the break, we want to take you back out to MCU Park and ask folks what is the best advice they ever got from dear old Dad.
The best advice that my dad ever gave me.
Don't do anything that I'll regret.
Do what you like and be who you are.
Always carry money with you when you go out so that you don't get stranded.
Investigate before you invest. Be good to my own kids.
Be truthful and honest to everybody in this world.
Always keep it real with people. Don't lie, don't sugarcoat nothing. Just keep it real. What you get back is what you receive.
Work hard, have integrity, be honest.
Keep going no matter what.
If somebody hits you, hit them back but harder.
I guess the best advice was when I owned a car to always make sure to change the oil in the car regularly.
At your workplace, it's not important to everyone there love you, but they have to respect you.
That's a hard one. My father's given me so much good advice.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, men learn how to put God and family first in their lives. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. As NATO planes continue to drop bombs on Libya, the leader of that country's Catholics says the people of that nation are sick and tired of the situation. Bishop Giovanni Martinelli says he hopes everyone's goodwill prevails to stop the war. He told Fidesz news agency, quote, "Frankly, we're all fed up." Martinelli's comments come at a time when the United States is renewing its focus on Libyan operations. Some in Congress are pushing to defund the military effort and continue to complain that they were not consulted in the run-up to America's involvement there. The Obama administration, though, continues to defend itself by saying the situation in Libya is unique and did not need congressional approval. Well, it's not exactly a war of words, but the new Mass translation could be coming to your local parish a bit sooner than you may have expected, at least part of it. Late last week, U.S. Bishops' Conference President Archbishop Timothy Dolan gave the go-ahead for local bishops to introduce the new musical settings for parts of the Mass ahead of the switchover during Advent. That is the scheduled time for it, during Advent, first Sunday of Advent this year. Now, several bishops had requested the gradual introduction of the new translation, which is said to be closer in meaning to the original Latin texts, to make that change a little bit easier for parishioners. Well, as New York lawmakers continue to debate same-sex marriage, budget negotiations are top of mind for California lawmakers. Governor Jerry Brown vetoed a budget proposal last week, leaving the state with uncertain times ahead as a projected $10 billion budget deficit looms over the next 10 years. Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez, meantime, is urging state leaders to cut deficits, but not on the backs of the poor. In an article for his archdiocesan newspaper, Gomez said a budget is more than a spending plan and raises, quote, profound moral questions about who we are as a society. Well, a Catholic priest famous for speaking at conferences across the country, along with appearing on TV and radio, is calling it quits. Reports say Father John Corapi was suspended from his religious order in March after a female employee accused him of sexual misconduct. The TV network EWTN also suspended Corapi's appearances after those allegations came to light. Corapi maintains his innocence, but said in an 8-minute YouTube video statement that there are, quote, persons in authority in the church that want me gone. Well, just a few months after an anti-abortion billboard ruffled feathers in Manhattan, a slew of similar ads is causing quite a stir in California. Ali Rasmus looks at how local residents there are reacting.
Across the street from the West Oakland BART station, there's a billboard with a picture of an infant in profile. The title reads, "Black and Beautiful."
I've never really paid attention to them.
It kind of disturbed me, but I didn't know why.
It's subliminal and you can't really tell what it's trying to say, but then the website kind of makes you realize what it's trying to say.
Walter Hoy is the man behind the billboards. He's the founder of an Oakland-based nonprofit group called Issues for Life Foundation. The group held a press conference to talk about the 60 billboards like this one going up across Oakland.
I'm looking to raise awareness, and I'm looking to create an environment for dialogue.
The billboards are in Congresswoman Barbara Lee's district, and she's not happy about them.
They stigmatize African-American women. They're not a positive message. All women should have a right to make their own decisions without anyone interfering with those personal decisions.
Billboard supporters fired back.
What about saying that our children are black and beautiful is an attack on black women?
The group says the message is directed towards African-American women on purpose because, according to CDC data, they have higher abortion rates than women of other races.
We should be able to look at this issue without having to get caught up in the rhetoric of pro-choice and all of the other nonsense. Something is wrong, and we are sounding the alarm.
Some West Oakland residents interpret the message differently.
I think that's an attack on black communities, and reproductive rights, especially for women of color. And so I think that billboard needs to come down.
Everybody have opinions, but if a person don't want to keep their child, then maybe they should use protection.
The Issues for Life Foundation says the billboards will stay up until July 10th.
That is Ali Rasmus reporting. And finally, NBC apologized for an incident that happened during its coverage of the U.S. Open that had nothing to do with golf. Now, during a patriotic video that opened up their coverage, the network ran footage of children reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Missing from the pledge, though, were the words, "Under God." Now, that sparked a firestorm on Twitter, Facebook, and in the blogosphere. A commentator for NBC's coverage later apologized, saying, quote, "It was not done to upset anyone, and we'd like to apologize to those of you who were offended by it." Now, as for the U.S. Open itself, 22-year-old Irishman Rory McIlroy went home with his first major victory after golfing an incredible 16 under par for the tournament. That beats the former U.S. Open record of 12 under par held by 4 players, including Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus. McIlroy, by the way, is Catholic. Well, stay with us. There is much more currents ahead. When we come back, we'll take you to a conference devoted to teaching men how to smash their idols. But first, we take you back out to Brooklyn's MCU Park, where we ask people if they had $1 million, what would they buy for Dad?
Anything he wanted. I just gave it to him. I would either spend it on a Rangers jersey or something good for my dad or something.
Bring him back a jersey or something.
A lot of tickets to Mets games. A Chelsea jersey. A big grill for him. A private house. A house. Some money to buy a house.
Maybe a new car, a house, and pretty much some money just to use on his own.
My daddy want to get a present for Santa Claus me.
Oh my God, Santa Claus. Okay.
Well, finally tonight, what does it mean to be a man? That's an important question to ask on this day after Father's Day, but what does it mean to be a Catholic man? A recent day-long conference called Fishers of Men explored that very question. And with marriage and the family very much on people's minds these past few weeks, in light of all the goings-on in Albany, it is an interesting and timely topic to explore. In this age of changing definitions and exposure to so many different lifestyles, cultures, and choices, it is no wonder that anyone, including men, would wonder exactly what their place is in this changing world. Well, for the organizers of the Catholic Men's Conference, while society may change, remaining strong in your faith and smashing your idols remain timeless solutions in these ever-changing times.
What happened was, in football, the third game of my senior year, we were playing against St. John Fisher College in Rochester. They had a great quarterback, and I was deep over the center of the field covering a receiver when the quarterback threw a short pass to the tight end, who caught the ball, and I came up to make the big hit, and as our bodies collided, I didn't get my head up in time, and I broke my neck, and by the time I hit the field, I was paralyzed, and I've been paralyzed for 30 years. You know, if it hadn't been for my faith, I don't know where I'd be right now. It's a day for Catholic men to get together, share their experiences, hear talks, and it's really a day of renewal for Catholic men. And the theme today is really, it's about smashing the stereotypical image of what a man is supposed to be in the world. Today is about embracing our weakness and surrendering to God's purpose in our life.
I think men today really have forgotten what it means to be a true man. And it's completely necessary, because if we can't be true men, then we can't raise our families in the teachings of Christ. And if that falls apart, then the whole culture falls apart. So we need to step up, and we really need to get back to being real men.
They wanted really to show that men can be truly men and good husbands, good family men, and that they can really be men of Jesus Christ.
I never understood what it meant to be a man until I was left away. And today I'm very fortunate. In many respects, though, I am this way. Jesus' presence made all the goodness come out of my story.
Detective Stephen McDonald has an amazing story. He was shot in the line of duty in 1986, I believe. And from that injury, he survived. He's a paraplegic from the neck down. He has no movement. And he was able, through his faith, to raise his family and to even forgive his attacker, which was an amazing thing. And he talks about forgiveness a lot in his talks.
It's important to get around other people, you know, the positive energy. It's a reminder of who we are, and it gives us a real sense of direction.
I think the most powerful thing that happens for us, for me as a participant here, is hearing the speakers. And just to hear their personal stories and how faith has helped them through their obviously very difficult journeys in life is inspiring for me personally, and I think for the group overall. You know,
these guys are authentic men, and they are completely contrary to what the world tells us a man should be. So the idol of manhood that the world holds up is smashed by the truth of the manhood of these men.
Smashing idols, there you go. And talk about some remarkable stories, and obviously some men who have needed their faith to see them through, and they can be a shining example, I think, for us all. That, you know, not a lot of us have to go through something like they have had to go through, but I think, you know, you'll find in your life a lot of times that your faith can be a very important part of what brings you through any difficult situation. Well, that is it for this particular edition of Currents. Now, be sure to stay with us this week as we continue to bring you the latest on the same-sex marriage bill and the push to bring the controversial proposal to a vote in the New York State Senate. Until next time, though, you can watch all of our coverage of the vote and more on currentsny.net. That is our website. We're also on Facebook and we're on Twitter. We're all over the internet, so just find us out there. You know, you can't miss us, really. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. And we leave you now with more from MCU Park and Ask the Experts what dads can teach us that mommies can't.
Well, I don't know. How to play sports. Like play baseball. How to beat a video game, I suppose. My dad doesn't teach video games. I learned it by myself. They can teach me sports, and, you know, moms have to do more, like, work around the house and stuff. Cooking. She's a very bad cook. Basketball. I don't know. I know my mom can speak Russian, but she probably couldn't teach me it, but my dad can, because he has a PhD in Russian literature.
He helped me with my homework, so he can teach me some of that stuff.
I can't teach you how to be a dad.